8. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. I am seeking a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13th, 2018 with the following corrections. Under number 5, the superintendent's update, bullet number 6, it reads June 20th, 2018, graduation exercised, and it should read June 20th, 2018, graduation exercises. And under number 8, unfinished business, the motion to approve policy series 7000, construction and regulation 4112.4, practice and procedure instead of proactive.
So moved.
I have a correction for you.
Okay.
It's in a statement that I made, and I do believe it was about K, and instead of now, it should be not. Saying that K was not increasing. Says this is the third day in a row that caved in, and it says now, but it should be not. Just before number 14, it says board comments.
Okay, so I would like a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 13th, 2018 with all of the 3 corrections that were mentioned.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay.
Presentations. All right, the first presentation is, we would first like to start by introducing our new business manager. We know when Mr. Penn left to go to Canton to run the, oversee the finances there in Canton, we were going through and had a couple of different folks who came in and did fabulous jobs. Ron Melnick was here for a little bit, and now he's in Stratford full-time. And actually, Paul had followed up, Ron being here, and we connected with Paul through Ed Advance. And as we went through the interview process, actually, Paul put his hat in the ring for the full-time gig, and we identified him as the right person for us moving forward for the board. So Paul was a finance director in Ridgefield for 9 years. So he did this similar position for 9 years in Ridgefield. Before that, there was a number of years in IBM and in their world of finance. And then I believe he was in the Navy before that for a period of time. But I want to welcome Paul to the board and give him a chance to make some comments.
Thank you for putting me on the spot.
You're welcome.
I just enjoyed myself this summer and found the community very welcoming, the staff very professional and cordial, and I felt that this was the right fit for both the board and myself, and that's why I'm was interested in the permanent job.
And now here you are.
Here you
Yes.
are.
So we're really happy to have you here, and you had your first finance and operations meeting not too long ago, and now you're at your first board meeting with us. So welcome. The other presentation we have tonight is Ms. Parsons, Director of Curriculum Instruction, and she has done some really excellent work at the end of last year, and I think even part of this summer, where she's been working on updating our elementary report cards, trying to make sure that they're in line with where they need to be. So without further ado, I'll have Ms. Parsons talk to you about where we are with our report cards for the elementary schools.
Great, thank you. Remember, way back to June, I said you'd be hearing from me a lot in this meeting, and that is still true. So the first thing I want to share with you tonight is the work we've been doing on our elementary report cards. So we asked the question, why are we revising the report card? It's because in education we talk about pendulum swinging back and forth, and over time we see waves of change coming through. So back in about 2014, all of these new standards started rolling in. The Common Core standards, then we have the Next Generation Science standards, and as a district, we've adopted the CASEL framework for social emotional learning. So one of the things I noticed when I came into district a couple of years ago now is that our report cards were not matching the instruction that we had going on in the classrooms, which was being aligned to these standards. So the next phase was to align the way that we communicate to parents and the way that we report progress to the instruction and the standards. So back in March, we started conversations with the staff. And in April and May, I pulled small groups of grade level reps. So we invited teachers from each of the elementary schools along with a coach and myself, and we sat down and went through the standards for the grade level and created the indicators. And those are the descriptions, the short phrases that you see on the report card. In May, we brought those indicators to the full grade level teams, and we finalized them, and we started, and we shared with them how we wanted to grade, the M for mastery and the P for progressing. And in the long run, what we have is not very different at all from the way that we have been grading in the past. So over in May and in June at the Brown Bag Lunch and through email, I shared out drafts with parents. We had requested parents through the elementary school newsletters to share their names if they wanted to review. And I did share out to a group of about 7 or 8 parents. And then in June, we finalized the draft with the administrative team, and Ms. Trinks and I have been working on finalizing some wording on those up until about a couple weeks ago. So we are now sharing with you what we would like to be our finalized report cards. And so that in September at open house nights and curriculum nights, teachers can start sharing out the report cards with parents. We talked to them and we said, do you want a guide? And they said, no. The report card, we love it the way it is. We want to show the parents the report card and have that be our tool so that they can see where kids need to be by the end of the year, and we'll talk right from that from the beginning. So PTA meetings in September will also touch base on these new report cards and make sure that everybody is really aware of what they will look like. And then throughout the course of the year, we're going to work with teachers and grade level teams, and what they have is charts that say what's the indicator or the standard, and then what will it look like if a child has mastered this standard? What will it look like if they're progressing? So we're trying to standardize some of that grading. So the grading system, what it will look like is this M, P, and N, and that's exactly pretty much what we had on the report card before. We're clarifying that a grade given is for progress towards the end of grade level standard, but it's for that time of year. So a very concrete example would be if a kindergartner, first grader, second grader is learning sight words or high frequency words, and by the end of the year they need to know 60 words. By the end of the first marking period, we would only probably expect them to know 20 of those 60, a third of it. And then by March, we expect them to know 40 out of the 60. So an M in December would mean that they know 20 out of 20. So we're not assessing them on what they haven't been taught yet. We're assessing them on what they've been taught for that time of year. Have they met the standard? Have they mastered the content? So the M will be meet standard. The P is progressing towards. So that's the child has a good chunk of, they've made a good chunk of progress. They're moving towards that standard, but they're not quite there. And N is they're not yet meeting. They need some more work. So there will be some children who are working in significantly off grade level material. There's very few exceptions where kids are working much higher above grade level material. There's more frequently some exceptions where students are working based on their individualized education plans or programs in grade level that may be below their enrolled grade. So what we have is it's a C, and for students who in their planning and in their work with their support teachers are being instructed and assessed in off-grade level material, you may see a C. So student progress is reflected in the comment section. So for a C, you would look at the comments because that sort of more appropriately reflects that individual child's progress. So in the comment section, it may say, refer to the IEP goals for progress, or it may say, because not yet is a big range. So a child may have made a full year's worth of growth, but still not be on grade level, but we want to acknowledge and be able to communicate to a parent that, you know, Johnny started the year reading at a level B, he's now at a level H. So we want to be able to communicate individualized progress, and that is the way of doing it through that C. We also have conferences, comments for every child, and ongoing communications with the teacher. So what does standards-based mean? Standards-based, what you see on the left side of that screen, is a screenshot of the actual Common Core standards. And on the right, you see the indicator. And if you can read it, it's pretty much word for word. We're taking the standard, and every set of standards drills down to a certain level. But with the English Language Arts, we're taking what are called the anchor standards, and we're taking the wording and translating it right into an indicator. So on the left, you would see that at the top, it says knows and applies grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words. That's our indicator. The standards drill down to say decodes words with common Latin suffixes, decodes multisyllabic words. That's what teachers are going to be looking at when they grade that standard, that indicator. So what we're doing is we're aligning our indicators directly to the standards, and the standards is what we base our curriculum and our instruction off of. So we're making sure we're coming back full circle and aligning everything. This is an example of what it would look like. This is about the top half of the report card. What the report cards will look like now, it's just, for those of you who may have seen these elementary ones before, it's not on the screen, I'm holding it up actually. There's a front and there's a back. So in the past, they were trifold brochures and specials comments like art, music, gym were attached and stapled on. The way it looks now is that it's just a front and a back, a one-pager, and the specials comments and grades will transfer right onto this one page. So that's what it looks like. You can see the grading key on top, and then you can see the indicators with a heading. So foundational skills, that's where you see that indicator we just talked about grade level phonics. For the most part, wherever possible, if there is a standard that's very similar from one grade to the next, we kept the language very consistent, so as parents, you get to know what to expect on those. So if you're learning sight words in kindergarten, first and second, the indicator always says reads high-frequency words by sight, so you can see development over time as well. If you remember back to the first slide where I showed you the CASEL logo, the framework we're using for social emotional learning is from CASEL, and there's 5 domains or components, and those are the bold words: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and decision-making. What we did was we took some of those indicators of what we're calling academic and personal responsibilities, and we sorted them under the domains. So you'll see like cooperates with others is under relationship skills. That's not a new indicator. We've always talked about how kids cooperate, but we're grouping it under those domains so that kids and parents and families and teachers all are talking a similar language. For these personal and academic responsibilities, it is not the MPN. It's at the bottom right there. It's the 3, 2, 1. A child consistently exhibits these responsibilities, inconsistently, or it is an area that needs improvement. The 2 highlighted indicators, ask for help if needed and completes expected homework on time, are only in 3-5. Other than that, every indicator is the same K5. So overall, what are the benefits? Why did we do all this work? The report card will now be updated to align to the current curriculum and instruction. It clearly lays out those expectations for the year. For example, I personally have a 3rd grader at home. I would be able to pick up this report card and say, what is she learning in math? Oh, she's going to need to be able to recognize, compare, and generate equivalent fractions. She's going to need to understand the concepts of area and perimeter. So I know by the end of this grade level what my child needs to know. It focuses on the mastery of those grade level standards. It's an accurate communication tool, and we're going to be working to develop common grading and assessment practices across the district. So we're really excited about it. We hope that you hear really great feedback. from parents, as we always are trying to improve that communication. Does anyone have any questions?
When you send out this new report card, is it going to be some information? Some parents are just going to realize, like, all of a sudden I have this new report card. Where did this come from? Is there going to be information explaining to the parent that wasn't involved in your study to see how you could improve it so that they understand what each area?
Yes, so we've communicated out to parents we have already communicated out some of that. We communicated through school newsletters last year, and we're going to hold those PTA meetings, and teachers are going to be talking about it at open house. The format looks a little different. The indicators and the grading piece of it really is not a huge change from last year. It will most likely have a letter with the first report card saying, you know, things look a little bit different, we've revised things, but there's no real, like, some districts will hand out a 10, 15-page guide with a new report card. We're not going to that level. We want to use the tool itself as the communication with families.
Yeah, I mean, I just was wondering if there was a cover letter that was going to go along with to explain. Okay,
Yes.
no problem. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I definitely want to thank you and all the folks who worked on that, because I know you had elementary people coming throughout, spending full days trying to get this right for parents, so.
I'm sure that was pleasant.
I think I think they knew it needed to happen, and they really, every time I went in just to see how they were doing, they were very engaged in the work that they were working on, so please extend the thank yous, you know, to all the folks that helped you with that. All right, so the next piece is superintendent's update. So I have a quick update for you. I was looking at my notes from last year. Last year I was telling you how dire the state budget was and how they didn't have a budget, and it made me start getting my twitch back because it was just such a difficult budget year last year. It took forever to get something. So this year is a little bit easier. First of all, we are looking forward to the start of the new school year. So August 27th, we have all of our staff coming back for convocation. And I sent an invite to board members, so I know a number of you work, and I understand if you can't make it, that's fine. But August 27th, we start here for convocation. I know the mayor is already excited to come out and speak to all the staff as well. We also invite Board of Finance and Town Council members to be present. So if you can be here from that 7:30 to 10 o'clock or some section of it, that'd be great. And we go from 8:15 to 10 o'clock in the auditorium. And then the rest of the 27th is professional development opportunities for teachers that we've had a team working on. Jen's been leading that team with the other administrators to get the PD put together. The Tuesday is all PD for our staff, and then the first day of school for our students, and I'm sure they're all watching us tonight, but the first day for school is on Wednesday the 29th. And we're really excited. You know, if you look in this building is an example of how well our custodians and maintenance folks really, the pride that they put into their buildings. So the buildings are looking great. Kids are going to come back to very clean buildings and ready to learn. The other thing I just want to remind board members is that on Wednesday we'll do a tour of all the 4 buildings. If you'd like to participate, we start at 8:15 at Eli Terry. We go out on a little tour. We just go to each of the buildings, walk through, get a chance to see everything. Again, some of you won't be able to do that because you have other obligations, but more coming from me on that. I also want to introduce Paul Casey. Paul Casey is actually in the audience. CCS, Paul's a student at Central Connecticut State University, and he's hoping to at some point be certified to be a superintendent. So God bless you on that one. But Connecticut, Central Connecticut looks for folks to, I guess, work with folks who are in that position. So Paul will be interning with me throughout the year. So you'll see Paul's face. He'll come to some of the board meetings. He'll have a chance to kind of shadow different opportunities and be a part of different situations. He's got a full-time job in Hartford as an administrator, so he's got a busy job as it is. But I just wanted to make sure I pointed out Paul to the board. And I also want to turn it over to Ms. Trinks to speak out a couple of items.
Yep,
So-
I have two different items to speak to you about this evening. The first one is actually becoming an annual piece to remind you that while most students were home this summer, we had a small group of students in our extended school year program. So I wanted you to know that was a 6-week program. Some students came 3 weeks, some were 6 weeks. So we had about close to 50 students that were able to attend and receive the services that they needed by their IEP. We made it fun though. Lindsay Ehrenheim, who's running it for her 4th year, I think, this summer, make sure that the last day they get ice cream and that they always have some fun things going on too, because it is summer for them. But we did run that program, and I wanted to make sure that you were aware of it, and it went beautifully, as it always has. So that's a good thing. The second piece is a notification I got from the State Department of Ed that is a very good notification. When I started, one of the first things I was asked to do was to take a look at some of our processes and procedures, because with having had some interims the year before I came, we had been, the state had done what they call their desk audit, where they reviewed IEPs, and we hadn't done as well as we had hoped. And every 3 years you go back through that process, and so our process was starting in February of this past year, and I was notified on August 7th that we passed our desk audit. So I'm thrilled with that, because that shows the work that the staff and I have been able to put together and really make some improvements there. There's always more we're going to do, but I want to celebrate what we've accomplished. So those were my 2 items.
Very good. And then we also want to turn it over to Mr. Hendrickson for a couple of items as well. The audit and the EFS system.
The audit has begun, and it will conclude later on in a couple months. So far, there have been no discrepancies found in the business office. There were no discrepancies found in the last year's audit. EFS, or the Educational Financial System, is taking the place of the EDO1, and I've been relatively successful in using it. What it does is it uploads the budget that we have and our expenditures into a spreadsheet that is put into the system, which minimizes any keen errors and provides consistency year to year. However, this has 14 schedules. The EDO1 had 12 schedules. I've completed 10 schedules and should have another 2 or 3 completed by the end of the week. And the deadline is Tuesday, the 4th of September, and I see no problem in making that deadline.
Great. And that's all we have for my updates.
Okay. We will move on to item 6, public
Oh,
comment.
sorry.
Sorry.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Okay, I just need some clarification, Dr. Semmel.
Yep.
Okay. On June 21st, 2018, the mayor, yourself, and the board chair had a meeting with the Plainville business manager and a few other individuals.
Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
then a letter came out from the mayor that was signed by you, Mrs. Johnson, and the mayor.
Yep.
Okay, so I talked to 3 council members, tried to get some input from them, because my concerns was why didn't this come to, like, the board? You know, why was a decision made by 3 individuals without anybody, like any board input? Because I asked even town council, 3 town council members if there was input from them, and they said no. So I just want some clarification of why the mayor, yourself, and the board chair decided that this wasn't a good fit for the town of Plymouth.
Why?
There's
Oh,
a-
why having one? Well, I don't know that's a quick answer, so I'm not going to answer it quickly, but I had made sure that I sent a couple of communications to all members of the Board of Education, keeping you guys informed about what I was doing.
Right,
So,
the clarification that I just want is, what I can't understand is that once you've got information from that meeting,
Yeah,
why, like, have a special board meeting so we can understand of what's going on? Because in all honesty, reading it, I couldn't even tell you what came out of the meeting. All I can tell you is that reading it, it says basically that the mayor's saying that it's not for us, and in it, it says there was a letter from the Office of Policy and Management dated October 5th, 2016, and directed to the mayor and Board of Finance indicating the Plymouth Finance Department is likely understaffed as compared to similar districts. weeks.
Right. I had actually sent the full board that entire letter.
Right,
So-
no, so I'm just trying to wonder.
Did you not have questions at the time when you got the letter? You could have asked those at
Well,
any
I
time.
asked council members, okay, so then I figured that, well, they didn't have any answers for me. So all I wanted to know is, just for clarification, is how come it just didn't come to us as a board?
Gotcha.
That's,
Well,
I'm not
Yep.
trying to make any
Well, it actually
derogatory.
did come to us as a board in the form of an email. If you had questions, you were more than welcome to ask them.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I
everybody
think-
had that.
Yeah, but in all honesty, Karen, nothing against it, but I can ask a question, but you don't know what I'm asking. Josiah doesn't know what I'm asking. Josiah could ask a question, and I have no idea what he's asking.
Okay, well, you
Okay?
could have also emailed and asked for
Okay.
perhaps a special meeting.
So.
Just so you know,
I'm just asking
Yep.
for just clarification, because I'm just trying to figure out, why all of a sudden 3 individuals made a decision
yep.
on something that I think maybe the whole town council, board of finance, and us should have been involved in too.
All I can do is speak for the board side of it. Because like I said, I made sure that I kept the board members updated about what I was doing, and especially the board chair as she participated and attended the different meetings. So, like Ms. Colessa said, if there's questions, and what I do is if someone sends me a question, I would put that in my next weekly update. So if you did send me a question and say, Dr. Summel, how come this? I would say, Mr. Brubaner asked me a question about this, and this was my response. Because I agree, you don't want one board member knowing one thing and another board member knowing something different. So that would be my response to that. But I didn't get any questions regarding this. In fact, I said, if there are any questions, let me know. So otherwise, I'm going to keep moving forward with this direction. It became pretty clear, though, when we went to Plainville, and when you speak to the Canton folks, that they actually don't have one business manager. They, in fact, have a business manager for the town side and a business manager for the Board of Education side. And when you read some original documents, you could be a little confused by that. But when you actually go talk to these people, there's a business manager on the Board of Education side. And when you look at the Office of Policy and Management letter, it says, in fact, you shouldn't be looking to reduce, I'm kind of paraphrasing, you shouldn't be looking to reduce staff. If anything, you're understaffed. And that's one of the reasons you're probably having trouble completing your audits at the town level. I'm kind of paraphrasing there for sure. But those are all pieces of information that we brought to the board, and that's why we ultimately had decided. And I can't speak for the mayor and the town council for how their governance works, but this is a position that we've had. It seemed clear to myself and Ms. Johnson, and since there being no questions from the Board of Education, that we are in support of bringing in our own, or continuing with our own business manager at the time. So
I get that.
That's
I
from
get
my
that part.
perspective.
I understand the business model that we're
Okay.
in. I just wanted some clarification because the 3 of you were there on where the conclusion that came with the letter, and I know there's some other things that are in here too, is that where that conclusion came from. That's all. I just wanted that clarification, just for my own personal.
I don't know if I
anybody.
clarified it for you or not then.
Yeah. Like I said, I talked to 3 town council meeting members, and I'm in a gray area. I don't know where it's really going.
Right.
So I thought maybe I could get a little bit of clarification tonight, but it seems like I'm still in a gray area.
Yeah.
So it's nothing personal.
Yep.
It's just that I'm just trying to discern where the mentality, where the reasoning, there we go, where the reasoning of this decision was made, so just so to satisfy my own personal.
Just for future knowledge, so everybody is aware, just, because we do have some new board members, please, at any time, if you're receiving information from the superintendent or the business manager or whoever else you're receiving information from, if you have a question, it is your obligation to ask that question so that that information can come out. To sort of wait until the meeting to bring it out here is sort of not as effective because there isn't as much time to get into the answer. And certainly you can, but it's more effective to do so where we could meet about it and have a discussion about it, just so everybody's aware.
Dick might have.
Yes.
I thought at the outset of this, it was well explained to us, and I think it's self-evident that after I heard what I had heard, that these towns which are doing that type of thing, they're with more bureaucracy. The finance person has to have an assistant and that on both sides. I think you're having more people, and it's a tough enough job on each side. And I mean, I'm not into this kind of thing. This every month the Paul is coming up with, that's enough. Doesn't need to be dealing with the town. I'm very happy with the way we're doing it.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to item 6, public comment. Please limit your comments to approximately 3 minutes. Anyone? Seeing no one, we will move on to item 7, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to new business, ED 099.
So we're going to ask Mr. Hendrickson to talk about this, but this is a form actually that you had to fill out when Mr. Melnick was here, and now we need to fill it out again.
Well, this is to certify that you either choose to participate in the program or not to participate in the program, and it's forward to the state.
Well, we're already participating in the program. I understand this agreement to actually change the name on the form to Paul Hendrickson.
Oh.
Yes.
No, I
So,
didn't.
sorry, I thought you had a chance to look over that agreement. Still being, we're still getting used to each other's way of working. So, yeah, the form is just actually signed. I can take this. The form is signed by the board secretary, and if you remember, Ms. Lucian, you signed this actually a couple of months ago for Mr. Melnick. So now we're basically asking the board to approve or give Ms. Lucian the ability to sign again, this time having Paul be the person on the paperwork, so he can.
Well, this is to approve reimbursement from the state, correct?
Yeah, you're the signer. We already did all the agreements in terms of being a part of the healthy foods.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of work we did in May and June.
I understand.
Yep. So that's all done. This is really just a signatory. It's an authorized signatures change form, and it requires that there's signature from a member of the board saying that you're in fact the person. So we just need the motion to, as it's listed there, if somebody would like to do that.
I'll make a motion to authorize Mrs. Lucian, Board of Education Secretary, to execute authorized signatures change form with revisions pertaining to the ED 099 agreement to the Child Nutrition Program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
So we're hoping we don't have to bring another ED 099 for a while. That should be something that's now done for a while. That's really just paperwork. But the next piece here is, I do want Ms. Parsons to speak again. She's going to be talking to you about the teacher evaluation plan, and we haven't had to bring this to you in a couple of years, but we wanted to bring forward some changes, and I would like Ms. Parsons to discuss that with you.
Sure. So as required by state, but also as good practice, we have in district what's called an Educator Development Committee. And that committee is the committee that meets together. It's composed of administrators, teachers, union representation, and we talk about teacher evaluation. We talk about new teacher induction, professional development, team, which is a process that new teachers need to go through. We talk about teacher of the year. So anything having to do with like teacher development and leadership comes through this committee. So one of our charges with the committee is to every year review our teacher evaluation plan and to think and talk about what we could change. And we were really up for a good discussion this year. And the state was also asking us to either submit the plan as was or to talk about some of the changes. So we have a few minor changes that we've made to the plan, and it's currently at this point with the state, but the state needs to approve it, and I need Board of Ed approval as well. We're updating the title. It was previously called a teacher evaluation plan. But the philosophy statement inside talks about growth and development of teachers. So we changed the name to be the Plymouth Public Schools Teacher Growth and Development Plan. It more accurately reflects our approach to teacher evaluation. And we updated the name of the committee in the materials to say Educator Development Committee. We removed some old references to dates and assessments because the plan was originally written in 2014-15, so it said like starting in 2016. Well, 2016 we waved goodbye to a couple of years ago. So we took out some outdated references, and then we also made some specifications around a review of practice. So teachers have a certain number of observations, but they also have a review of practice every year. And in our plan, there was a little ambiguity around whether the review of practice took place. A mid-year meeting was the review of practice, or a mid-year meeting could be when the review of practice took place. And a review of practice is really talking with the teacher about how they plan, how they participate in the community professionally, and how they interact with their colleagues. So what the state wanted us to clarify was that a mid-year meeting is to talk about how you're doing with your goals so far in the year, but a review of practice can take place then if you've already accomplished your mid-year review. You can go into your review of practice, but you can't just do a review of practice and not talk about your progress with your goals. Does that make sense? Okay. So it was just clarifying a little bit there, and then aligning the mid-year paperwork between the evaluator side and the teacher side. One of the things that we do is that teachers and administrators work together to mutually select indicators from our rubric, and those are the indicators that teachers receive scores on when they have their final evaluation and the scoring piece of it. But one of the things that has always been part of the plan that we just made sure that we clarified is that teachers can get feedback on any indicator. So you may only be receiving a score on how you integrate assessment in your instruction, but if you want to talk and give praise or talk about potential ways to improve on something else, like your management in class, you can still talk about that even though you're not getting a score on that. And lastly, probably the biggest change that we did, and it's what's attached here for your reference, is that we revised the pre and post conference paperwork for observations. So teachers that are in their first 2 years in the district, whether they've taught 45 years in another district and just come to Plymouth, or whether this is their very first time stepping foot into a classroom, teachers in their first 2 years here, teachers who have yet to complete their team process, or teachers who may last year have received a developing final score, which is none of our teachers, which is great to hear. They have 3 formal observations every year. So they have to fill this out with each of those 3 observations. Our other teachers who have been here longer and have successfully completed all of those requirements, they have either 1 formal or 3 informals. So if you're on a formal observation, this is the paperwork that you fill out. You fill out the pre before you come and speak with your evaluator. You discuss all of these great things about what's the intended learning, how will you assess, what strategies will you use, and then just general reflection. The administrator comes in and observes, and then afterwards you meet and you talk about how did it go with the intended learning, and you really reflect on the lesson. So those are the changes. I could gladly answer any questions, but we do need a motion to approve the use of this plan, which again isn't an original creation. It's just some minor tweaks that needed to be done after 4 or 5 years of using the plan.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Motion to approve the state-approved Plymouth Public Schools Teacher Evaluation Plan.
Second.
Any discussion before we move on? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, we are moving on to number 9, board member committee reports. First up would be me, the Finance and Operations Subcommittee. The Finance Operations Subcommittee met prior to this board meeting, and the subcommittee reviewed the final accounts by facility report for the month of June 2018 and the accounts by facility report for the month of July 2018. Those reports will be forwarded to the Town of Plymouth Board of Finance. Okay. We also have several other things that we discussed, so bear with me as I look for motions. Secondly, we talked about our year-end surplus and sinking fund contribution. So if someone from my committee could make that motion.
Well, as a reminder, it's coming from the committee, so all you need is a second.
Okay, so the motion from the committee would be to recommend from the Finance Operations Subcommittee that the year-end surplus of $9.28 and the money freed up by unliquidated purchase orders can be transferred to the sinking fund. And number two, that this be a subject item for the October meeting, by which time most of the purchase orders will be closed. We'll have a better idea. So we do not need a second on that.
You need a second.
We need a second.
Right, you just don't need the first.
Second.
Now you've got the second, so.
Okay.
I think Cindy seconded it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for a roll vote on this one.
Do you want any discussion first, just because it's a little different?
Okay.
I wasn't.
Does anybody have any?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, and this might be a obvious question, asking the obvious. The surplus of all of the money spent is $9.28.
Yes, right now, not counting the encumbered money that we still have. Yeah.
Okay, as in, can you explain that for a second?
Yeah.
Sure. You want to?
Yeah, I'll try, and then if there's.
Try.
Do
So.
you want me to do it, Laura?
Yeah, right? So we had $9.28 left of our budget. That was all that we didn't spend. Keep in mind that we had worked with the town council and Board of Finance, and we had said we were going to make sure we gave them back $1.1 million. So we worked hard. We had to reduce staff last year, and it was a tough year. But we were able to make it so we could give the $1.1 million back. But we did manage to not spend $9.28. However, at the same time, we have encumbered funds, funds that we have POs for, invoice where we've got those items on order, but we haven't actually accepted them or finished off the purchase. So there was $400,000 as we left June 30th of encumbrances. And now we're down to, I think Mr. Hendricks had said about $172,000.
Roughly.
So yeah, it was only $9.28 originally that we didn't spend by June 30th. We think, or currently, out of that $400,000 of encumbrances, we now have $16,000 approximately of unliquidated, I guess is the word we're using. Basically, if we had a PO for $100, maybe it only cost us $95. Now I've got $5 of unliquidated money. So we're asking that the board give us the opportunity to ask the Board of Finance to take all of that unliquidated money, those closed encumbrances when we get to October, and ask for that to be put in the sinking fund. So it's a little bit more of a complicated situation.
The sinking fund is part of the town or the Board of Ed?
Sinking fund's an interesting fund because it's not just ours. It's our money. We are the only ones that can use it, but we have to ask permission to use it.
Oh.
So if we have extra money at the end of a year, we have an agreement with the town that says we can put money into the sinking fund, and we use that to actually it's to fix capital type issues. We used it to help fix a boiler issue last year, and we also use it to take care of the safety issue on the sidewalks this past year. So we have to go back and ask for it just to make sure that there's a checks and balances with the town, that we're not using it for something we're not supposed to. So this motion is saying, let's put the 928 there plus any of the unliquidated funds as of October, which Paul was suggesting very much might be somewhere around $35,000. I think you had said at the meeting 30 to 32,000. But you don't know exactly how much all your bills are going to come in at. So that's a ballpark.
Well, I guess my only other question is why are we, and I'm sure this is an easy answer, or maybe not, so why are we doing this now instead of waiting to see at the end? Like, why put 928 in right now?
No, we won't go ask that. We want to make sure, let me take a step back. In the past, usually at this meeting, we know we have like maybe $10,000 or $20,000 of unexpended funds, and we come to you guys and say we'd like to put that in the sinking fund, and you guys would approve it. This year it's only 928, so we'd like to be able to use these unliquidated funds and ask for that money to go in the sinking fund this year, since last year was such a tough budget year. So we're actually looking to wait a couple of months further out than we normally do. But we
Okay.
wanted to bring it to your guys' attention and point out it's slightly different than we normally do in the past.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Any other clarifications needed or questions? Okay. I'm going to move on to the roll vote then. Josiah?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next finance and operations item, which is our update on the cement replacement at Terryville High School. You know that the initial phase had happened where they fixed the outside because it was a pressing safety issue. So they're going to talk to us a little bit about the next phase.
Yep. So Mr. Hendrickson and Mr. Mazon are here to give you guys some update on that. So Jim, do you mind going to the podium just so you guys can make sure it's clear? But again, this recommendation is coming from subcommittee, so it doesn't need the second. Oh, it doesn't even need a second. Thank you.
No, just a motion.
That's why I messed you up. My mistake.
Okay, should we make the motion first? Is that more appropriate?
So moved.
The motion reads, a recommendation from the Finance Operations Subcommittee to approve a second request to transfer up to $60,000 from the non-lapsing capital reserve sinking fund, which we were just talking about, to the general fund as follows. Up to $60,000 for Stage 2 skim coat repair of sidewalks at Terryville High School. Okay, so we don't need the second, so that's come out. So now we have questions for. I know many of us have already heard this, but go ahead, Jerry.
All right. So I showed Jim the concern that I had with at least one of the catch basins.
Right.
So he has an idea of what I was talking about structurally. So what I recommended to Jim is that he calls Jim Schultz, or he could call Charlie, the Director of Public Works, have them come down and check all of our catch basins. Because if that one looks like that, I saw an issue, which I thought I was going to the one that was on the other side, because the initial one, because I saw an issue right away. So there's something that either himself or Dr. Semmel needs to get a hold of Public Works and have them come
So
and
they
check.
can look at all of them.
Well, you might as well get it done now
Right,
before all of a
before.
sudden, one fails and then, two, if you can catch all that stuff now.
And that's
before-
something that's under the,
It's under
under
the basin.
Public Works?
It's, well, I would say yes, because of, if we, in the city of Bristol, we would do it for the school systems, okay?
we would have to get
But-
clarification on
right.
that, but,
Yeah,
okay.
so, but I would have him do that. But Jim knows, I showed him what to
Yeah,
look
thank you for that. That was a good call.
So do you want Jim to give a short, just
Sure, give us a short overview.
commentary about because some of you guys didn't get a chance to see some of the visuals and other pieces that the finance and operations saw that brought them here, but the point is to kind of finish the work that needs to get done on the cement here at the high school. So Jim, you want to just give a...
Yeah, so
and then we
starting at the entrance at the far end of the gym, we're going to skim coat, which puts it's actually called overlay, between 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch of a product called Elephant Armor over the top of the sidewalk that's existing to seal all the cracks and get rid of all the trip hazards that are there. And that's going to come all the way up to the stairs. It's going to do the front door and all that area. And then we'll put a sealer over it that'll protect it from the ice, keep the ice from getting and water getting down into it. And then we propose doing a part in the back next to the bus entrance where it meets the building. There is some failed expansion joints that are letting water get underneath the sidewalk, and the 2 catch basins that Jerry talked about. We're going to patch around those so the plows don't hit them, because when they hit them, it's jarring the sidewalk and the curbs and causing more cracks in areas that need to be filled.
Do the board members that have no idea what he's talking about want to see this?
Is there anybody who wants to
I
put
have
this
it
in?
on mine, but-
Yeah, we have it over here.
Oh, they have it.
I've got a couple.
They have it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just Josiah.
because this book is.
So I was just looking through it, and the example that they gave is a non-treated side, how the water will either
Absorb into the concrete.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is saying after 25 minutes of untreated, it will soak into the slab of bare concrete. The other one just kind of like spread out, but yours will bubble and then it will take up to 30 hours to evaporate, and you can broom it off if you need to. So is that going to require, like, we've had rain all week, so are
Right,
we
and the
just gonna have
sidewalks pitch.
puddles?
The sidewalks pitch towards, they're not level, so you're going to see puddling. The sidewalks pitch towards the driveway. It's a slight pitch, but the water's going to run off. It's either going to go into the grass around it, or to the sidewalk and end up down a catch basin, or away from the sidewalk into the driveway and go down a catch basin.
So we're not going to have problems with
No.
puddles sitting for a couple,
No.
like the following day and
No.
stuff?
Anyone else? Okay. All right, we have a motion on the board, on the table. Let's take a roll vote on this one as well. Jerry?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Josiah?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The motion passes. Okay, we are up to review cost of school breakfast and lunch program.
Let me give a quick,
Yeah, go ahead and give
Primer on that.
go ahead and give us a quick overview on that one because
Yeah.
it's different than what we were thinking.
I just want to remind people, back in June, Ms. LaBarbera was here, our food service director, and Mr. Melnick was here at the time still. And they had brought a presentation to you about the food service program, but they also had said we were applying for what's called CEP. It's a state program. And the state program says if you have 40% of your students with free and reduced lunch, you'd be able to actually get free lunch and breakfast for all the students. So we were going to apply for our 2 elementary schools. That's what Ms. LaBarbera was here talking about, because preliminary paperwork showed that we were around 40.5%, 41%. It was really close, but it made sense to us that if all of our kids could eat for free lunch and breakfast at the elementary schools, we should at least try. But she said she was going to go through the application process, and she felt pretty good at the time that we'd be able to actually make it and be approved. But when we ended up having to get down deeper into the data, unfortunately, we missed it by about 0.5%, about 5 or 10 kids. We needed more to be on that free and reduced lunch list. So we don't make it. And so because we don't make it, we actually have to look at the cost of our breakfast and lunch programs. We knew that if we didn't make it, we'd have to recommend an increase for elementary school lunch. Because there's a whole nother worksheet the state requires you to do when you're part of the healthy food certification to make sure you're charging parents a minimum amount. And so we went through the paperwork, and now actually Ron and then now Paul doing the same paperwork, they actually came up with the same number of $2.80. So it's the minimum round number that we can charge parents for lunches. So we do intend to apply next year for the CEP program, as long as our numbers continue to go the way they've been going. It's kind of unfortunate, right? Because I'm saying more people have to be on free and reduced lunch. So I really don't want that, but if that's the case, we want to make sure we apply. So we'll end up having to apply again next year, and maybe next year we'll have a situation. But for this year, the application was denied from the state, and we have to continue with life as usual with an increase to the lunch cost. So hopefully that's enough. I can answer questions if there's additional questions about that.
All right, so the motion from committee is the recommendation from the Finance Operations Subcommittee to approve the following increases for the school breakfast and lunch programs for the 2018-2019 school year. And you can see the table in front of you. The only increase that we're looking at is the elementary school lunch from $2.70 to $2.80. All other meals will stay the same. We don't need a second coming from committee, so we will go ahead and do another roll vote on this one. Josiah?
A point of order, could we just do the discussion for it?
Sure.
Does the state require that it goes up because they get some of the increase, or do we get the money from the increase? I'm just trying to figure out why the state
Right.
wants us to increase it.
We receive some of the money from, we get a reimbursement from the state. And because we get reimbursement from the state, the way I understand it, I don't spend as much time with this, but the way I understand it from conversations with Ron and Holly was that because of that reimbursement, we need to at least be charging our families a minimum amount. So that they put that requirement on us. So it's like, they can't, if, I suppose in a Stark situation, if we charge very, very little, we'd be getting a tremendous back from the state, and we'd be putting little burden onto the parents who are paying. I don't know why we do that, because our food system would be losing, like hemorrhaging money if we were charging that little. But they're requiring us to charge at least a minimum rate because we're part of this.
So the state's watching out for us? Is that what this is?
Well,
Paul, I don't know if you have a better explanation than that, but
All right.
Josiah, what they're telling you is that in order to get full state reimbursement, you have to charge $2.80 whether you like it or not. So that's what the state is saying.
they probably feel like they want the people who are actually paying to be putting in as much as the state is paying us for
Right.
those
So
that they are paying for.
So for instance, let's say we charge $2.70, but the reimbursement rate from the state was $2.80. You know, technically the state would be looking at like, you know, we're going to give you $2.80, but you're only charging somebody $2.70. It's probably an apples to apples type of comparison.
Well, that makes sense if that's what it is.
That's probably what it is.
If you're right.
I would probably safe to assume that's what it is.
we can get that information to you. You know, we can send it to you, but I don't know that our reimbursement rate would be that 280 level. But I'd like to talk facts. So we'll get how much we're reimbursed by the state and let you know. But I do know there's a worksheet that they provide that says, here's what you need to do to figure out what your minimum's going to be. So it's been verified by Holly and by Paul that 280 is our minimum. We cannot charge, might maybe charge 279, 278, but you're going to make the lunch ladies and gentlemen very unhappy giving out pennies. So you use a round number to get to.
I don't doubt you. I was just curious as to
Yep,
why they do
no.
that.
Yeah, but we'll send that out. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments or concerns? Okay, we'll go to the roll vote then. Josiah?
Yes.
Alyssa?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dick? Yes. And I vote yes as well. The motion passes. Thankfully, we are done with that category. And we will move on to student achievement. Mrs. Lucian.
Hi. The first meeting of the Student Achievement Committee will take place on September 27, 2018 at 6:30 in the conference room of Central Office. The committee will be reviewing suggested textbooks for Foods 1 and 2 and vocational foods. These textbooks will be available for review in the Central Office on August 27, 2018.
Okay, and the policy committee, there is no report from Mrs. Kreml. Or the negotiations committee, Mrs. Cromwell, no report. Okay, we are back to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to board liaisons for schools. And because we have not been back into school, I'll just do it open-ended. Does anyone have a report from any of their schools that they are assigned to, or?
I can do a couple of you.
Sure, go ahead. All right, so Cindy, you are Eli Terry Junior Middle School.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about the Booster Club for the high school too.
Sure.
So we got approved the 2 town skate nights, so that will be open to the whole town. We're going to do one in October for Halloween. You're able to dress up, so we're going to send that all out to everyone. It's going to be $10. And that is the weekend, the Tuesday before Halloween, which I don't have the exact date, but and it will be at 6 o'clock at night at Roller Magic in Waterbury. The Booster Club for the high school, and I'm sure quite a few other booths are still looking for adult help for the Terryville Fair coming up this week. So if anyone knows any adults that are going to be hanging out at the fair that would like to help volunteer, or parents with kids that want to help volunteer, I think some of the kids areas need kid volunteers too. So I know those are the two big things right now that's going on with the two schools.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have a committee update?
Is there anything going on with CAVE, Mrs. Lucian?
No.
I mean, I haven't heard anything. So I know the next meeting for CAVE is September 25th.
Okay, great. All right, do we have anyone who would like to make a board comment? Jared?
I found it pretty ironic when I got this in my packet, because I got in trouble a couple of years ago on number 11. Did anybody see number 11?
I read the whole thing, but I don't remember specifically.
Okay, number 11 talks about children's playgrounds. And I know a couple of years ago there was in legislation looking at synthetic fields and some of the carcinogens that they're finding in the rubberized rubber. And then I made mention that I think we have one of those. Don't we have something like that at the Plymouth, at Fisher? So there is a thing in here that kind of gives you an idea of what this booklet is talking about, 12 cents to a healthier school. So I found that ironic, that what goes around comes around.
Always, doesn't it?
So
Yeah.
it was pleasant reading.
Any other board comments? Okay, so I would like to welcome everyone back to a new school year. I'm very happy to see everyone here, and we hope to have productive, successful meetings throughout the year. And the next board meeting will be the regular meeting of the Board of Education, scheduled for Wednesday, September 12th, 2018 at 7 p.m. right here in the cafeteria at Terryville High School. And I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Have a fantastic evening.